So now I'd like to introduce the final speaker for, excuse me, for this evening, Sandra Yuen MacKay. Sandra's a visual artist. If you haven't seen any of her work, you can look on the internet, you can Google her, and she's got some amazing visual art that I would that just is evocative and beautiful and creative and expressive. She's also a speaker on mental health issues and is the author of My Schizophrenic Life, The Road to Recovery from Mental Illness. As a way of recognizing her many contributions, Sandra has received the Coast Mental Health's Courage to Come Back Award, and she's also received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal for overcoming adversity and for giving back to the community. And she's going to do that again this evening. Sandra, please join me on the stage.
Thank you very much. Ryan, I really enjoyed your very evocative talk, and thank you, Natasha, for your wise words. Okay, so as I'm an artist, I decided I'd put a bit of artwork into my presentation, so it sort of parallels my journey and my story. So this painting is called The Silent Woman. So she has no mouth, so she's unable to articulate what's happening for her. She's suffering in silence. So in 1979, I was 14 years old, a very shy student at Vancouver High School, and I started to see things. Like I thought I saw students at school at the window of my house, and I kind of ignored them. I'd heard voices outside. I thought there were students, and I thought, oh, they're spying on me, they'll go away. But then I started to hear voices in the car, on the bus, through the PA system at school, at my friend's house. I thought I was being followed downtown. I thought people were taking pictures of me in the shower, so stop bathing. Kind of asked my father, what's going on? Is there people outside the house listening to us? Or, oh, there's nobody out there. I don't know what you're talking about. So I didn't make much progress there. The voices turned on me. Soon I became very paranoid and confused. So this is two irises. So irises are the flower of healing. So it's sort of the yin yang. So on the left is the purple flower, is more the darker side of my existence, and the yellow being hope or positives in my life. So I did some bizarre things, and I destroyed some properties. So my parents decided we need to check Sandra into emergency and find out what's going on for her. We had no history of schizophrenia in my family. I myself didn't really know what an auditory hallucination was, never mind paranoid schizophrenia, but that was my diagnosis. So that meant I'd had hallucinations for about 9 months. I was delusional, thinking a plot was against me between the students and my parents, who I totally distrusted. I withdrew from my friends and my family, really wasn't able to carry on a 2-minute conversation, and then I had flat effects, so not really showing much emotion. Very hard to go back to high school and thinking that all the new students thought that I was this crazy person. They had seen me in the shower. I mean, the delusions were very much real for me, and I felt really bottom of the barrel, personally weak that I couldn't figure this out. I was just too stupid to figure it out. I was never going to make it in life. I'd had a life sentence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was sort of, a lot of peer pressure, feeling that I was really the odd person in that room. Oh, sorry. So I graduated my class, fortunately, and I decided I like fine arts. So I enrolled at Langara's Fine Arts program. This is a portrait of Tanya. She's looking into the window of knowledge. So after that, I also went to UBC and got an art history degree, but really it was very difficult. I mean, when you're having symptoms in a lecture hall, it's dark, you're starting to fall asleep, you forget to bring note paper, your instructor kind of looks like a comedic actor on television. There's rock musicians in your English class. People are taking advantage of your grades. It was just like an ongoing thing. So it was really a miracle that I actually graduated. So I worked for my father for a number of years. He was an architect, and I learned a lot about design and that sort of thing. This painting's called Out of Mind, so that's sort of self-explanatory. I was not always present at work. I missed a lot of work because I was sick, seeing a doctor, or medication issues. But I did work there for quite a number of years. He was sort of good to me because he's my dad. I had my grandmother passed away, my grandfather passed away in 1997. My doctor switched me from trifluperazine to risperidol, became very manic, went off medication, and was rehospitalized in 1998 and diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. So a combination of schizophrenia, the delusions, and mood disorder. So I thought, I'm really worse off than I started. What can I do now? I had to quit my job. What's my life going to look like now? So these are sort of things that help me. Everybody sort of has their own things that kind of help them along the way. They're not in any particular order, but Ryan was talking about love, and I think love was really something that really helped me. I met a fellow when I was younger, and he helped me through university. We dated for a long time, and then he asked me to marry him in 1994. We've been married 21 years. He's not mentally ill, people ask me, but he really is my rock. So when I need a go-to person, I go to him, and that's really helped me a lot. So having insight, having education around mental illness, having those seeds of hope planted in me, having stable housing, food, clothing to help me be in a state of mind where I could recover, support from other people, family, friends, mental health professionals, medication, exercise, because I was on olanzapine and I had to kind of work on that. Art and writing being like therapy tools, and reality checks. So, if something's going on for me, I ask my husband, hey, is this real that your brother said this negative thing about me? He'll kind of say, well, he'll think about it and says, well, that doesn't really sound like he would say something like that, Sandra. I mean, I think maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe it's part of your illness. Maybe you need to move on. So the Wellness Recovery Action Plan helped me. So having a wellness toolbox, so things that kind of keep me well, be it a daily maintenance plan or avoiding triggers. Like if I'm in a paranoid state, don't go see Shutter Island. Do not go see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Just like parameters you can put yourself in, so you don't put yourself in that position exactly. Also having a crisis plan. So if I'm incapacitated, I'm in hospital, there's people in place that can take care of my affairs outside of that hospital. MCT is a pared down version of cognitive behavioral therapy. So using logic and reason to kind of filter ideas. So not jumping to assumptions, not jumping to wrong conclusions. And for example, like if I'm walking down the street and as someone looks at me, swears and turns and walks away, if I'm in a paranoid state, I probably think he's either out to get me or he's part of this like lifelong conspiracy, et cetera, et cetera. But if I'm in a different state of mind, maybe he's on his cell phone, maybe he's talking to himself, maybe he got splashed by a car driving by. So that's just a really basic illustration, but it just shows you that, the world doesn't revolve around my egocentric fantasies or delusions of paranoia, so that sort of thing. Sorry, the paper here. So one thing that really helped me was mindfulness, and so it's around breathing exercises. So you breathe and you feel yourself in the moment. You feel how you feel physically, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, and you kind of just exist in that time and sort of empty your mind of everything. So number one, I don't do the breathing exercises. Okay, so I read the parts of the book. Okay, so I'm going to skip that whole formal part of it, go right to the meat of the thing. Okay, so breathing is about pausing, right? So pausing before I act or how I respond to a thought or emotion. So if I'm aware of my thoughts, like, things that are a little bit out there, I can sort of recognize them that they're maybe not truths, that not everything I think is a truth. To create that same thing around emotions, if I'm having emotions built on these false ideas, kind of think about, build some emotional distance and say, maybe that's not really true. Maybe I guess got to step back, count to 10, breathe a little bit, and move on. So letting those really negative emotions kind of pass through me, or thoughts I'm in kind of my head and I'm really having this huge fantasy, just kind of let it go through. So I have a problem with anger. So sometimes I want my own way. Okay, so I'm like a little kid, you took your toy away, and I'm mad, I'm selfish, I don't want that, or I do want this because I deserve it, right? So the thing is, I would beat my head against wall about the same issues over and over again, be it a living condition or whatever it is. So the questions I ask, do I desire change, or I just like complaining about it? Do I want to tolerate the problem, change my behavior to the problem, or figure out a solution? So those sorts of things. And around self-stigma, really about being less critical and judgmental of myself and others, and building compassion and acceptance into how I view myself and the world around me. So really, like a lot of my problem was, I wanted to fight back, okay? Self-stigma, I'm gonna fight back and improve myself. So I became this sort of achiever type person. So really, I would be living in chronic anxiety. I would be like, I had to do this today. I have to get an art show by such and such a date. I have to be, get this degree, get this job. And it was just really turning into a roller coaster of, stress, added stress and failure, because I wasn't living up to what I wanted to be. So really stopping that whole cycle and stepping back and being in that moment. And also when I had that self-pity, when I really felt, really this isn't working for me right now, I kind of look around and say, it really isn't that bad. I've got a place to live. I've got a husband who loves me. I can do painting a little bit. I can write a book, so maybe it's not that bad. Oh, sorry. Okay. So what makes a difference to decrease stigma? So I think Natasha sort of covered a lot of this. So I'm really happy because you're here hearing, took your time out this evening to hear personal stories. So that's really important to build public awareness, right? Because if we're motivated, maybe we can make the government work in marvelous ways. If we see the person, as Natasha said, not as that diagnosis, it's a multiple faceted person, that we're people, right? We're people first. And if people look at me and they say, well, I remember when you were a kid and you did these funny things, or you were a good student or whatever, and they're not basing me on my current psychotic state, or if I'm in a bad space, right? So there's this side of Sandra, the monster, but this side of Sandra who's sort of creative and tells funny jokes on Facebook. Okay. So, and also having compassion, right? So like compassion being not only for people with mental illness, but we put like an umbrella over it, right? Like I think the others said, like, if we consider prejudice against other things like race, education level, economic status, if someone's homeless, if someone's transgender, or if they have a sexual orientation that may not be one of your own, I think, it's important to be compassionate to all people. If you have a personal connection, someone who has gone through a real trial with mental illness, that can actually bridge how you feel about it. And to see belief that a person can recover and contribute to the community is really, for me, that was bottom line, because people believed in me, and they, kept me in school, they helped me out, and gave me the tools and support so I could survive and become better. So, what I think the takeaway I want to say is, so if you're in a situation and they're saying things about, per se, someone who's mentally ill who committed a violent act or something, just take a moment and say, well, maybe we'll take away this dialogue, the words that are coming out about the craziness, the nuts, the stupidity, and all that stuff, and just think, maybe that person had the right treatment, maybe this could have been prevented. I think you might have saw in the news today about Ryan Norris, and they talk in that article about if he had long-term, supported housing and that sort of thing, he may have not died. Okay, yeah. This is my book, this is my plug. So it's also available on Kindle, or you can just get it at the Vancouver Public Library. It's just down the road. I talk about my journey in my book, if you're interested. Okay. So this is one of my later works. So this is called Hibiscus, and it's 12 feet long, and it hangs at Willow Pavilion at Vancouver General Hospital. So that's one of the ways I like to give back. So I think, part of my journey is finding purpose in what I do, and that really builds my confidence and makes me feel whole. And the fact that I can aid other people by giving back through public speaking, or just giving people support. People email me, they say my daughter has having this issue or whatever, and if I can be there and give them some hope, I think that's really important, to have a personal connection and really help other people. This is my last quote here. So this painting is called Mindbender. Recovery means not necessarily being cured, as there is no cure for schizophrenia, but having hope, social inclusion, dignity, and finding purpose and happiness in life. And I think we all want happiness in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm going to go home and look you up on Facebook. Maybe you'll be my friend.